Hey guys, today we wake up beneath the low ceiling of a smoky Ice Age cave, your back sore from sleeping on uneven limestone, and your nose assaulted by something that definitely didn't exist on your Glade plugin. The fire's mostly out, just a few glowing embers, and a soft wind howls through a crack in the rock, sending icy drafts right down your bare spine. But that's not the worst part. Nope. The worst part is the rhythmic huff 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 of the creature snoring just inches from your face. A woolly mammoth, curled up like a furry avalanche with tusks the size of tree trunks, is your bunkmate tonight. His breath smells like fermented tundra grass, stale swamp water, and the last thing he ate, which may or may not have been an entire conifer. You can see the fog of it every time he exhales. You try to roll away, but your foot brushes against something cold and wet, mammoth slobber. Great. Another night of primal luxury. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing how far we travel together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge to the cave's exit, navigating around your still snoring companion, who twitches every now and then like he's chasing dream hyenas. Outside, the sun hasn't risen, but the ice glows faintly in the starlight. Your breath fogs up in front of you. You wonder if your toenails have frozen. Sleep was supposed to be the easy part of survival, right? But it turns out your Ice Age roommates don't follow basic courtesy. Like, maybe don't bring a 10-ton animal into the communal sleep pile. Historians still argue whether early humans actually domesticated mammoths or just tolerated their presence when warmth was more valuable than pride. What we do know, humans coexisted with these shaggy titans for thousands of years. Their bones formed tent frames. Their dung made decent fire starters. And sometimes, when no one was watching, their snores triggered small avalanches. You clutch your frost-covered furs closer, your brain still echoing with the mammoth's nasal concert. There's no toothbrush, no minty rinse. Just rawhide floss, if you're lucky. Your mouth tastes like dried fish and ash. Still, at least this cave doesn't have giant centipedes. You remember the summer cave near that boggy ravine. The floor had more legs than a centipede rave. You'd take mammoth morning breath over centipede cuddles any day. As you squat near the fire to poke the embers back to life, one of your human roommates groans awake, grug. Always first to rise and always, somehow, already annoyed. He grunts something that sounds like, "Where's the fire stick?" even though it's literally in your hand. You hand it over. He doesn't say thanks. Typical. Mainstream archaeology agrees that Ice Age humans relied on small communal groups to survive, often living in cramped caves or hide tents together. These weren't cheerful found family sitcoms. These were frostbitten, hangry, fart-scented survival pods where social bonds were forged under constant pressure. They shared everything or fought over it. Grug now begins his morning routine, which includes loudly hawking up something prehistoric from deep in his throat and launching it into a corner. You make a mental note not to sit there later. You head outside. It's a crisp -40. The wind sings through the icicles like a broken flute. You pull your mammoth hide hood tighter and shuffle over to the food stash. Last night's catch, frozen fish. Not cooked, just frozen. You tap one against the rock and it rings like a bell. You gnaw on it anyway. There's a myth that early humans lived in harmony with nature, all peaceful and balanced. But harmony's a stretch when your roommate steals your mammoth pelt, snores like an avalanche, and uses your favorite sitting rock as a toilet. Still, there's beauty here. A kind of brutal clarity. The stars never looked this close before you moved into the world's coldest commune. Also, fun fringe fact, some Ice Age clans may have believed mammoths were spiritual beings, guardians of the underworld. You're not sure what that means for the guy currently drooling on your sleeping mat. The mammoth yawns behind you, one tusk swiping a nearby torch clean off the wall. You sigh. Another fun day with the worst roommates in history. You'd think that, In a world where food requires spears and luck and sometimes divine intervention, people might be a little more inclined to share. But no. Welcome to the bitter truth about Ice Age roommates. Cave mates do not share snacks. You're crouched in the dim light of the communal cave, eyeing the last strip of mammoth jerky dangling from a wooden peg. It's swaying slightly from the draft, or maybe from the vibrations of your stomach growling loud enough to alert predators. Across from you, Grog's younger brother, Waff, is pretending not to see you. He's sharpening a rock he never uses. He just likes the scraping sound. But what he does use, often and without remorse, is his position as the unofficial keeper of the jerky stash. You don't know how he got the job. Nobody voted. One day, he just moved the jerky next to his sleeping spot and claimed it was more secure there. Now, the moment you glance at it, he squints like you've insulted his mother. You reach for it anyway. His hand moves faster than lightning, jerky secured, rock dropped, eyes narrowed. Mine, he grunts. It's not even a word, really. Just a guttural hiss of territorial caveman rage. You hold your hands up, backing off slowly, as if the dried meat were a cub and Waff the snarling mama bear. He tears into it like it personally wronged him. You sigh and go back to gnawing a pine cone out of spite. Historians still argue whether early human groups shared food equally or practiced proto-hoarding behaviors. Some believe sharing was a survival necessity. Everyone contributed, everyone benefited. But growing evidence suggests that, even 20,000 years ago, people were playing favorites. Friends shared. Strangers watched. And if you were on Waff's bad side, well, you weren't getting so much as a mammoth crumb. The main food stash sits in a hollowed-out mammoth skull. Dried roots, smoked fish, half a hair. You remember catching that hair. Chased it across a frozen lake like an idiot while everyone else watched. When you brought it back, Waff nodded like he was doing you a favor by not eating it in front of you. You miss fruit. You miss bread. You miss modern things like microwaves, hot sauce, and the social contract. There's no such thing as polite society in a cave shared with 7 other frostbitten proto-humans and 1 emotionally distant shaman. The shaman, by the way, is chewing on tree bark and muttering to his bone necklace. He doesn't care about the jerky. He's fasting, for spiritual reasons. Also probably because Grog called his rituals weird humming noises that scare the children. That brings you to another Ice Age roommate problem, silent power plays. You don't talk about them, but you feel them. Every time Grog gets a bigger portion. Every time the others look away while Waff carves your name into a wall and draws a spear through it. Still, at least the women are fairer, unless it's about the berries. Someone hid the last handful of cloudberries last week, and 3 people nearly came to blows. One woman screamed so loudly, it triggered a rockfall. Nobody was injured, but now there's a boulder blocking the rear tunnel. Might have been intentional. You wander outside, your stomach groaning. Hunting isn't an option today. The wind's too strong, and the last expedition ended with Darg falling into a crevasse. He's fine, mostly. Just a bit, tilted now. Talks to trees. Instead, you head toward the nearby stream. You know it'll be frozen, but sometimes you can chip away at the ice for fish trapped underneath. As you near it, you see your rival Waff again, kneeling by the ice, smugly holding up a wriggling trout. He sees you and winks. You feel a deep, primal rage. Still, you breathe through it. You remind yourself that civilization is coming. Eventually. Maybe in another 10,000 years or so. People will invent shared fridges, grocery stores, refrigerated hummus. But right now, you share a freezing stone hole in the wall with people who'd rather see you lick lichen than get a bite of jerky. It's a lonely kind of hunger, the kind that makes you question every moment you chose not to throw a rock at someone's head. Fringe tidbit for the day. Archaeologists found signs that Ice Age communities sometimes held food feasts, but only after successful hunts and often as part of ritual ceremonies. So, basically, food sharing came with strings. Like sitting through 3 hours of spiritual chanting before they passed you a leg bone. And you? You're not even invited to tonight's chant. You head back inside, empty-handed, colder than before. Waff's already asleep, a bit of trout sticking out of his mouth. You stare at it a moment too long. No, you think. You're not that hungry. Yet. You're trying to nap. Or meditate. Or whatever the Ice Age equivalent of let me have just 5 minutes of peace is. But it's not happening. Because someone has a saber-toothed cat. And it's glaring at you. Not just a passing look. No, this is a deep, soul-piercing stare. The kind that makes you question your life choices, starting with why you ever agreed to share a cave with someone who thought keeping a saber-toothed predator as a pet was a good idea. The cat's name is Shriek. Of course it is. And it's not technically anyone's pet, but Darg insists the beast found him during a vision quest and followed him home like a divine sign. More like a divine death wish. Every time you so much as shift your blanket, Shriek flicks its tail in slow motion, eyes never leaving yours. Historians still argue whether early humans ever successfully tamed Ice Age megafauna. Most agree it's unlikely. Domestication takes generations. But fringe theories suggest that some clans may have formed symbiotic relationships with young predators, particularly if they were raised near humans from cubhood. Not cuddly exactly. More like tolerantly homicidal. You roll over, trying to ignore it. Bad move. Shriek rises, slinks across the cave floor, and curls up right next to your face, breathing hot meat breath all over your eyelids. You're frozen, not from fear, but because you're pretty sure any movement counts as an act of war. Grug walks past, snorts. Still hates you, he mutters. Thanks, Grug. You'd ask why the cat is even here, but you know the answer. Darg claims the beast keeps spirits away. Which spirits? Unspecified. When pressed, he mutters something about whispers from the sky rock and walks off to burn dried lichen in a seashell. You sigh and sit up slowly. Shriek narrows her eyes, but allows it. Benevolent queen that she is. You shuffle toward the fire pit, more ashes than flames at this point, and try to warm your fingers. It doesn't work. Your fingers are already numb. From cold or cat fear, you're not sure. Outside, the wind's howling. A storm's coming. You're stuck in here for hours, maybe days, with a group of people who've all agreed not to mention the cat, but definitely whisper about it when Darg's not around. Last week, Shriek dragged in half a caribou. Nobody knew where the other half went. The rest of the clan watched her feast in awkward silence, then quietly licked the bones when she left. You miss your old cave. That one had a bad draft and a weird slime problem on the back wall, but it didn't have a death-eyed feline that stole your blanket and left dead birds as gifts. Someone behind you sneezes. Shriek growls. You all freeze. The fire pops. You watch the spark drift upward, half hoping it'll trigger a roof collapse. Anything for a change of pace. Fringe fact, some Ice Age burial sites suggest that humans were sometimes buried with animal companions, wolves mostly. But in one site in Siberia, archaeologists found bones of a massive cat laid beside a human, surrounded by tools and ochre. Ritual pet or coincidence? Nobody knows. But it makes you glance at Shriek again and wonder if Darg is planning something permanent. You try to distract yourself by carving a spear handle. Not because you need another one, but because pretending to be useful sometimes helps your nerves. Shriek watches. You don't look up. A few kids run through the cave, laughing. One gets too close, and Shriek raises her head, issuing a low, breathy warning. The child immediately pivots and sprints the other direction, nearly tripping over a pile of bones. Smart kid. Later, while eating a lukewarm root mash, you ask Darg gently whether he's considered maybe finding the cat her own space. Like a side cave. Or another continent. Darg blinks slowly and says, she chose us. That's it. No further clarification. Then he wanders off to tie feathers to a mammoth tooth and chant at the ceiling. You wonder if modern roommates are really that bad. Maybe the guy who leaves his beard trimmings in the sink isn't so horrible. At least he doesn't have fangs. Tonight, Shriek curls up next to the fire. She yawns wide, flashing those saber teeth. Everyone watches in quiet terror. Then they all slowly settle into sleep with one eye open. You, though? You're not sleeping. You're staring at the fire and wondering what the odds are that the cat gets hungry around midnight. You count the spears within arm's reach. 3. You lie down and pull your hide blanket tighter, aware of every breath behind you. Sweet dreams. You step outside, hoping for a bit of fresh air, and promptly step directly into it. A pile of frozen poop, right in front of the cave entrance. Again, not just any poop. You know whose it is. Everyone does. It's Bark's. Bark, the lanky, wild-eyed cousin of Waff who insists on a more natural rhythm with the land. His words, not yours. He claims relieving himself outside the cave, barely, is a sign of respect to the earth spirits. You think it's just because he's lazy and likes to watch people step in it. You try to scrape the bottom of your foot wrap against a rock. It doesn't help much. The crusty mess has already frozen into the fibers like nature's cruel Velcro. You limp back to the stream, cursing the spirit of Bark under your breath. Historians still argue whether Ice Age people maintained designated waste zones or simply relieved themselves wherever the mood struck. There's some evidence of rudimentary sanitation, waste pits, and isolated corners. But for the most part, yeah, it was probably chaos. Cold, smelly, bacteria-ridden chaos. You chip away at the stream ice, trying to rinse your wrap in water that's roughly the temperature of betrayal. It doesn't work. The poop just flakes off and floats. Great. You're officially living in a cave with no plumbing, no doors, and 0 boundaries. Back inside, someone's boiling roots. The steam smells vaguely like feet and hope. You shuffle to your usual corner, but it's been taken by Bark naturally. He's using your sitting rock as a headrest. You consider confronting him, but Shriek the Sabertooth lifts her head, yawns, and glares in your direction. Message received. So you squat next to the fire pit instead, hoping today's root stew has more flavor than slightly dirt. You sniff the pot. Nope. Definitely just dirt. You eye the ceiling. A crude drawing of a bison hunt stares back. Someone's added a stick figure with stink lines near the back. You suspect it's meant to be Bark. Everyone's thinking it. No one says it. One of the kids runs past with a bone flute. It makes an awful squeaking sound, like a goose being stepped on. You don't blame the kid. There's not a lot to do when snow traps you indoors with 7 other people, none of whom believe in deodorant. Fun fringe tidbit. Some caves have ancient latrines located far from living areas, which suggests Ice Age people tried to set boundaries. Whether those boundaries were enforced is another matter. One famous site in France shows over 20 separate dung deposits, most of them suspiciously close to sleeping spaces. Back at the fire, Waff is chewing loudly on something you hope is jerky. Bark starts humming a wordless tune while twirling a stick. No one speaks. No one asks him to stop. You just sit there, breathing in a blend of smoke, boiled moss, and the faint afterscent of his outside offering. Shriek farts. Quietly, but with presence. Like a political statement. You contemplate leaving the group. Starting a solo lifestyle. You imagine your own little hut, built from mammoth bones, miles from the nearest poop trap. Just you, the stars, and no one else's smell. But then you remember the snow leopards. And the fact that fire is a group privilege, maintaining it alone is almost impossible. And, well, the loneliness. Turns out even Bark's nonsense is better than silence echoing inside your own skull. You sigh and lean back against the wall, adjusting your stiff wrap. Someone's foot bumps yours. You don't flinch anymore. You've accepted it. Physical space is a myth in the Ice Age. You can smell what your neighbors ate yesterday and count their nose hairs from across the fire. Suddenly, the shaman coughs and stands. He mutters something in Old Grunt and throws a dried mushroom into the flames. A puff of green smoke spirals up, making Bark giggle and Waff sneeze. The kids cheer. And just like that, you forget for a moment about the poop hallway, the cat stairs, and the soup that tastes like wet bark. There's warmth here. A strange, chaotic, pungent warmth. You're not alone, but you are still stepping carefully tomorrow morning. It starts slowly. A faint whistle. A low hum. Then there it is. The shrill, reedy trill of a bone flute echoing through the cave like a dying duck stuck in a wind tunnel. You sit upright, heart pounding. Not again. Yes, again. The shaman is performing one of his midnight rituals. You don't know what's being summoned, but whatever it is, it does not care about your sleep schedule. You roll over, wrapping your fur tighter, praying he'll stop. But instead, he doubles down, adding soft chants and a rattle made of teeth. You peek through half-lidded eyes. His silhouette dances near the fire, arms swaying, hair frizzed out like he's been struck by spiritual lightning. This is not his first performance, and it won't be his last. Historians still argue whether these rituals were purely spiritual, social bonding exercises, or just the prehistoric equivalent of interpretive jazz. Mainstream theory agrees they were central to Ice Age life, often tied to seasonal changes, successful hunts, or ancestor worship. But in your case, it just feels like personal revenge for that time someone, definitely not you, accidentally used his ceremonial shell as a soup bowl. You roll onto your other side and try to focus on something calming, like the sound of distant snowfall, or your own breathing. But the bone flute ramps up into a screech that makes Shriek the Sabertooth twitch in her sleep. Someone groans from the shadows. Another voice whispers, "Make it stop." But no one moves. No one dares to interrupt the shaman mid-rhythm. Last time someone tried, the fire pit inexplicably smoked for 2 days and every fish turned up sour. You press your palms to your ears. It helps. Barely. Fringe tidbit of the night. Some Ice Age shamans are believed to have used hallucinogenic mushrooms and rhythmic sound to induce trances. This explains the intensity, and maybe the fact that he once swore he saw a god made of antlers ask for more cowbell. The fire flickers, casting shadows on the walls, dancing hunters, leaping deer, and one suspiciously detailed image of the shaman himself, larger than all the others. Subtle. The kids are awake now, wide-eyed and whispering. Grug throws a piece of bone at the wall, missing entirely. Bark begins clapping in slow, offbeat intervals, either as support or protest, unclear. You bury your face in your wrap and will your soul to escape your body. Suddenly, silence. The flute stops. The rattle ceases. The chants fade into echo. You lift your head. The shaman stands motionless, back to the fire, arms raised. He says something unintelligible, probably a blessing. Or maybe he's asking if anyone has snacks. Then he sits. Just like that. Done. No explanation. No apologies. You all wait in stunned quiet. Shriek stretches and yawns. A log collapses in the fire. No one breathes. Then, with a long sigh, the shaman flops onto his furs and begins snoring within seconds. You let your head fall back. It's over. For now. You close your eyes, but sleep doesn't come easily. Your nerves are still vibrating from the flute assault. You hear someone whisper, "Next time I'm stuffing that thing in a snowdrift." You don't know who said it. You don't need to. Eventually, you drift off. You dream of silence. Of a world without chants or tooth rattles. A world where bedtime means sleep. Then morning comes. The shaman is already up again, humming to a pine cone. You pretend to still be asleep. The moment you wake, it hits you. A thick, musty wave of odor, like wet fur rolled in expired cheese and left to marinate in a sauna. You gag slightly and bury your face deeper into your mammoth hide blanket. It's laundry day. Except, it's never laundry day. Because no one in the cave does laundry. Across from you, Bark is adjusting his bear hide underwear. It's stiff, possibly sentient. You swear it growled when he moved. He proudly claims the hide hasn't been washed since the Great Storm, which could have been last year or a decade ago. Time is flexible here. Hygiene, even more so. Grug scratches his armpit with a sharpened stick. Waff is airing out his foot wraps near the fire, their stench potent enough to make Shriek, the fearless saber-tooth, scoot a few inches away. That's how you know it's serious. Mainstream archaeology tells us Ice Age people did care about cleanliness, sort of. They bathed in streams, used sand or ash as scrubbing agents, and even had primitive combs. But full-on clothes washing? Not really a thing. You wore it till it rotted, or until someone stole it. Whichever came first. Your current wrap used to be white. Now it's a sort of gray-brown mystery shade with patches of green that may or may not be lichen. You try not to think about it. Darg, the shaman, wears the worst offender, a robe stitched from raccoon pelts, stained with everything from berry juice to who knows what. He claims each stain tells a story. You believe him. You just don't want to smell those stories. You step outside, hoping for fresh air. Nope. The wind has shifted, and now the smoke from the communal fire pit is blowing straight toward you, carrying with it the aromas of smoked trout, unwashed leather, and wet dog. A triple punch to the senses. Back inside, Bark has taken his underwear off and is holding it above the fire to sterilize it. Everyone pretends not to notice. You pretend not to exist. Waff starts humming. His personal scent hits your nose like an ambush. It's part foot, part fermented onion. You shift away slowly, trying to breathe through your mouth. It doesn't help. You remember the stories of ancient rituals involving aromatic herbs, juniper branches, wild mint, mossy resins burned to cleanse spaces. You long for that. But here, the only thing getting burned is your dignity. Historians still debate whether clothing was passed down or shared. If that's the case, you're now wearing what used to be Grog's uncle's loincloth. You can feel the family history in the seams. Someone throws a handful of dried lavender into the fire. The smoke curls upward, briefly pleasant, until it collides with Bark's underwear plume and transforms into something worse. You gag again. Fringe tidbit. Some Ice Age graves show bodies wrapped in surprisingly intricate furs and plant fiber weaves. So at least they cleaned you up when you were dead. Back in the corner, Waff starts brushing his hair with a fish bone. It pulls and snaps and makes a sound that shouldn't come from human scalps. He grimaces, but keeps going. You admire the commitment, even if the results are questionable. You glance at your own hair. Tangled. Crusted with soot. You consider dunking your head in the stream again, but last time your eyebrows froze solid and snapped off. You're still recovering from that. Someone passes by and coughs. You all freeze. It's a dry cough. Probably just smoke. You hope it's just smoke. Shriek the saber-tooth sneezes. The room collectively tenses. After a few seconds, someone whispers she probably smelled Bark's pants. Everyone relaxes. By midday, the cave is a haze of funk, smoke, and suppressed complaints. You sit near the entrance, carving patterns into a stone with a shard of flint, mostly to distract yourself from the assault on your nostrils. A gust of wind blows through. Cold. Harsh. But clean. You close your eyes and lean into it. For a moment, you almost feel fresh. Then Bark walks by again. And the moment passes. It's late afternoon, and tensions in the cave are running higher than usual. Not because of predators. Not because of a shortage of food or warmth. No, because of fire. More specifically, who controls the fire. Right now, that would be Varn and Tikka, the teenage twins with terrible attitudes, loud opinions, and absolutely no sense of proportion. They're currently seated by the fire pit like royalty, one on each side, legs crossed, feeding twigs into the flame with the smugness of two people who know exactly how much everyone needs them. You sit 10 feet away, shivering under your wrap. The flame barely reaches you. When you edge a little closer, Varn glares at you like you just asked to borrow his eyebrows. Too close, he mutters. Fire needs room to breathe. You're not sure if he read that somewhere or just made it up. Either way, he's not moving. Historians widely agree that fire was a central power source in Ice Age clans, not just physically, but socially. Whoever controlled the fire often held disproportionate influence. And if you think modern group chats get petty, imagine dealing with prehistoric power plays when the warmth of your kidneys is on the line. To make matters worse, both twins are trying to impress Kaya, the only eligible young woman in the group who hasn't already fled to a rival clan. Kaya, for her part, is pretending not to notice the standoff as she braids moss into her hair and glances toward the cave entrance like she's hoping a saber-tooth will eat her first. Every time one twin adds a log to the fire, the other immediately adds something bigger. Then the first twin complains it's burning too fast. Then the second accuses the first of trying to smoke them all out. It's like a slow-motion custody battle over a pile of twigs. You attempt to warm your hands. Tika immediately shifts sideways to block your airflow. You blink. Seriously? She shrugs. You didn't help gather with this morning. You did help, but apparently not enough to earn fire access. Fringe tidbit of the day. There's evidence some Ice Age tribes used fire not just for survival, but for status. Decorative fire pits with sculpted stones, layered ashes, and even council circles of heated stones that might have indicated hierarchy. You're living in a flaming soap opera that would make any archaeologist weep. Grog finally stomps over and throws a half log into the flames without asking. Everyone gasps. Varn stands up. You trying to ruin it? Grog growls. I'm trying to not freeze to death, Varn. Bark, watching from his perch on the poop rock, mutters, fire spirits are mad now. No one responds. You all pretend not to hear him. Tika turns to Kaya and says, loudly, some people just don't understand sacred fire balance. Kaya responds without looking up. Some people need to stop making everything about them. The room goes silent. Varn slumps down, defeated. Tika glares into the fire as if it betrayed her. You slide 2 inches closer. No one notices. Progress. Later, Waff tries to light a second fire at the far end of the cave. Varn says no. Too dangerous. Tika agrees, citing bad smoke angles. Waff throws a rock at the wall and storms out, muttering that he's starting his own cave, with blackjack and pine cones. You consider joining him. Briefly. But it's cold outside, and your wrap still smells like Bark's pants. You settle near the edge of the fire's glow, watching the twins sulk in perfect synchronization. Shriek yawns and shifts closer to the warmth. She gets prime fire access. Always. At least she earned it by not being a drama magnet. As night falls, the fire crackles steadily. You close your eyes, not quite asleep, but not quite awake either. Kaya's moss braids cast long shadows on the cave wall. The twins whisper snipe at each other like rival TV show contestants. You dream of a world with thermostats, with fireplaces you control, with people who say, sure, scoot closer. But for now, you pull your knees in tighter and steal just enough heat to survive. The ground trembles. It starts subtly, just a small vibration under your sleeping mat of old hides and crushed ferns. You open one eye. Shriek growls softly, her tail twitching in warning. Bark, sleeping near the entrance, stirs and mumbles something about earth spirits stretching. But then it happens again. A low groan rolls beneath the cave floor like something ancient shifting in its sleep. The others sit up slowly. Even Waff looks serious, and that man once fought a beaver over a fish. Then, in the distance, a sound like thunder. Except it's not from the sky. It's from the land. You rush to the entrance and pull back the fur curtain, and there it is, a wall of white. Not snow, not fog. Ice. A glacier, slow but unstoppable, cracking through the forested ridge you've hunted near for years. Trees snap like toothpicks. Rocks slide. The air is thick with frost and urgency. Eviction by glacier. Historians estimate that during the last ice age, glacial shifts displaced entire populations over and over. You've heard the stories, elders muttering about the crawling white death that swallows homes and memories. You never thought it would come for you. Dark the shaman steps outside next to you, his raccoon robe flapping. It comes, he says, unnecessarily. Grog starts packing immediately. his version of packing, grabbing a fish, his spear, and shouting, "Let's go." Tika and Varn begin arguing about which direction is less doomed. Kaya is already tying up her fur bundle. Bark just stands there, still barefoot, whispering sweet nothings to a fire pit that's about to be ice mulch. Inside the cave, the fire flickers, casting its final light on the painted walls, hunters, beasts, triumphs long past. You look at them one last time. The stories your clan etched into stone, soon to be buried under tons of moving ice. There's a sadness there, and a strange, ancient clarity. You help the kids tie up what little food you have. Shriek stalks ahead, as if she's been through this before. Maybe she has. Fringe tidbit: some Ice Age sites contain stacked rocks in odd formations, possibly early trail markers. A few even have carefully packed caches of tools buried beneath flat stones, survival gifts left behind for future travelers. You take one last look at your cave. The fights, the smells, the saber-tooth near miss. The jerky wars. The flute assaults. Bark's underwear. You're almost sad to leave it all behind. Almost. The clan begins to move. Slowly, feet crunching across frozen earth, steam rising from breath. You stick close to Kaya and the kids, spear in hand, every sense on alert. The glacier groans again. Somewhere behind you, a boulder splits in two. You don't look back. The journey ahead is unknown. Another valley, another cave, maybe even a friendlier mammoth or fewer screaming rituals. But that's the Ice Age. You don't get to choose your roommates, your neighbors, or your air quality. You just keep moving. And somehow, that's enough. The wind is softer now. You've walked for hours, maybe days. The glacier's roar is behind you. Before you, a field of untouched snow stretches wide beneath the moonlight. It glows blue, peaceful, empty in that perfect, humbling way. Everyone's quiet, even Bark. You set your pack down slowly. Kaya is building a fire ring. Grug is digging out a pit. Tika and Varn are arguing about where to sleep, but with less venom now. Maybe they're too tired. Maybe they're finally learning. Shriek circles once, then curls up near the pile of hides. She doesn't growl tonight. You lie back, staring at the stars, your fingers tingling with cold, but your chest filled with something else. Relief, maybe, or just exhaustion. You survived another chapter. And even though the Ice Age is brutal, ridiculous, and smells mostly like raccoon armpits, there's a strange comfort in knowing you weren't alone through it. Tomorrow, it all begins again. New hunt, new cave, new complaints. But for now, rest. The snow falls gently now, just a fine powder brushing the earth like dust settling over a story's last page. Your eyelids grow heavy, the cold no longer biting but soft, like fur on skin. The others have all quieted, their breath slow and deep, rising in faint clouds against the night. You lie back and feel the ache of the day in your bones, but it's a good kind of ache, the kind that says, you made it. The glacier didn't take you. The cave didn't break you. The noise, the stink, the chaos, they were loud, but you're louder, just by staying here, staying human, through it all. In the hush that follows, a spark cracks in the fire. One small ember glows, holding on like you did. The sky above spreads vast and endless, stars blinking like secrets you haven't yet uncovered. Somewhere, far beyond your frozen toes, the world keeps turning. And here, in this moment, wrapped in hide, surrounded by oddballs, under the watchful gaze of a tamed predator, you are safe. You are still. You close your eyes, and the sounds of the Ice Age fade into one slow exhale. Let the cold rest. Let the fire die. Let the stories sleep. Tomorrow waits patiently. But tonight, you dream.